Hello everyone, I'm really delighted to welcome you all to TNC's latest Down the Wire podcast. And today's topic, as always, is very interesting: how to manage network transformation and optimize your business case. I'm John Waterhouse, CEO of Network Collective. I'll be your host for the next 20 minutes. As I'm sure everyone joining knows, TNC is the UK's largest independent network and telecoms strategy and sourcing consultancy. We support over 300 major UK and multinational organisations and help them get the best possible commercial, technical, operational and contractual results from all of their network and telecom solutions. And joining us today to share her expertise is our Head of Managed Services, Clare Tyndall. Clare, would you like to say hello to our viewers and listeners?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Very delighted to be discussing today's topic with John.
Fantastic. You're looking very summery there. I like the vista, the patio doors open. Fantastic.
Absolutely. I hope, well, we'll come on to this, the advantages of working from home.
Absolutely. I just hope no one tunes in the middle of winter and they're like, this is outrageous. But anyway, so as promised, today's topic is super interesting and I know it won't disappoint. And that topic is how to manage network transformation and how to optimize your business case. So, Clare, let's start at the very beginning. Why should our viewers and listeners be thinking about transforming their networks?
Okay, well, I mean, we've already started on it already, haven't we? There's been a huge shift in working patterns over the past couple of years. A lot of organisations will have seen a shift towards hybrid working, a mix of in the office, out of the office, a greater number of home workers and remote workers. And that has really changed how the network underpinning the communication technologies to support that needs to be viewed, needs to be deployed, needs to be transformed. On top of that, you've got completely different ways that people want to interact with organisations. We would have once upon a time recorded this, just in office locations. Now, various types of digital technologies, messaging, particularly the prevalence of video calling, has meant an exponential increase in data on networks. Internet of Things is coming more to the fore. That's driving to the digital strategies. CX, customer experience, is requiring a level of networking technology that we haven't seen before. So all of that points to faster, more efficient, more secure networks being essential. And that's a whole host of reasons why a lot of our clients are looking at the networks that might be based on MPLS, and that might have served them well for the past decade, and thinking, how can I harness new technology to support my digital strategy?
And I remember something you wrote in one of your white papers recently along the lines of, if you wrote your network strategy more than, I think you said 12 months ago, I wonder if these days we might even say 6 months ago, time to have another go. But certainly if you wrote it more than 12 months ago, with the changes in working practices, the technologies you mentioned, etc., you've got to start again, right?
Quite possibly. I mean, things are coming technology development wise at organizations very, very quickly at the moment. So we have SSE, we have SD-WAN, we have zero trust networking. What does all of this mean for how you're going to approach your network management model, your operating model? How are you going to approach security? All of these things might have changed, as you say, even within the last year. So it's something that the market is very much in flux in a way that it didn't used to be, both from a technology perspective and then also the drivers of the outside influences. So it's a very sort of stormy sea to try and navigate for our clients at the moment.
Nice. I like the analogy. So in fact, I might run with it. So because the thing I wanted to go on to, and of course I've had the advantage of reading your white paper, which our viewers and listeners won't have done yet because it hasn't been published, but you pick up a number of points in there about the complexity of network transformation, and particularly around the business case. It isn't straightforward. It can be very problematic. Can you take us through what the main risks are that our viewers and listeners should be aware of around, I guess, it's not so much developing the business case as ensuring the business case is achieved?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, the business case is going to be very complex for a lot of this stuff. If you've moved more towards hybrid networking, does that mean that you can reduce your footprint of real estate? Does it mean you can reduce your footprint of hardware within the network and for your communications? Does it mean that you can remove legacy technology? Obviously, PSTN switch off is coming, but old legacy networking technologies as well. How are you going to cancel those, and so on? And so the actual creation of the business case, because some of the technologies might be more expensive on a circuit per circuit basis, but the overall business case might be able to really optimize and maximize savings for your business. So that initial creation of the business case and the procurement process to ensure that it ticks all your boxes from a technical, operational, commercial perspective all needs work. But I think a lot of clients going into this can see those challenges right ahead of them as they go through the procurement and the creation of the business case. Then they don't realise that there's a whole bunch of other challenges coming along right after that. So
you were about to ruin their day and tell them that there are a lot of challenges coming along after that. Yeah, okay.
There are, yes, storm clouds on the horizon, and I'm sure a lot of these will be very familiar to people listening and watching today who've gone through network deployments. But we are seeing things like average network deployments taking 6 months longer than planned. 40% of organizations come back to us and say new functionality by the end of the deployment is not exactly meeting the needs of the requirements of the RFP that maybe went out some 18 months prior. Exactly to that point we've already touched on about how fast technology is changing at the moment and how that might happen. The worst one, though, obviously, is when you've made that commitment to your CFO that you're going to be realizing this level of savings and it just isn't happening as a result of the deployment and the ongoing new network. That obviously keeps a lot of people awake at night. And so we're seeing all these sorts of risks and challenges coming up for our clients when it comes to network transformation, and a real problems caused by lots of many different underlying factors.
So essentially, you from understanding it correctly, we're sticking with the nautical analogy here. The ship sails with a pretty good plan about where it's going and the benefits that's going to achieve. But as a consequence of all the things that happen in that process, by the time it's reached port, maybe, but certainly by the end of that journey, those benefits aren't necessarily being realized. The deployments take longer. Functionalities had to be uplifted to meet changing demands, etc. That's all eroded the business case. I mean, presumably even something as simple as taking 6 months longer to deploy costs an awful lot of money because you've got to keep your deployment team in place for longer, but also you presumably dual running infrastructure. So all of that, I can see how that all erodes that original business case. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, very much so. And if you think of some of the reasons behind those 6 month delays, the rocks, if you will, that you might hit along the way, they're going to be things like gathering the per site data or the per user data in order to make sure that your estate is clean and you know actually what you're dealing with as you set off on your course. The fact that you might obviously at procurement only have a high level design, and by the time you get down to a low level design documentation, that might throw up a whole host of technical development that you might have to do during the project that might add cost. Something we're seeing on a global basis at the moment is equipment shortage. How will that impact your project? How will that impact your cost and business case? And then just, an old sort of favorite is project management failures. Unless you have, to keep going with the analogy, the right through helming the ship, you could end up in a completely different place, of course. So all these sorts of reasons could impact on what was your lovely original plan for network deployment that you presented to the whole business, and now you're in completely different shape.
And presumably there's a technology angle to this as well. So, you know, you mentioned technology like MPLS, you know, delivering MPLS, everyone knows how to do it. It's tried, it's tested. The service provider knows how to do it. The end user organization knows what to do. You know, if you're rolling out something a bit more cutting edge than that, SD-WAN, SSE, even ZTNA, presumably as well, it takes longer to get to that low level design, the configs, the per site processes, etc., because there's more testing, there's more issues are going to arise, and they've all got to be factored into the transition time.
Yeah, the simple understanding of your IT team. It might be a very capable team, but this will be the first time that they've ever rolled out these technologies because they are new to the market. So exactly as you say, John, that understanding of how it may impact users, how testing may go, how things need to be configured, etc. You're going to have to do from scratch. And so therefore, estimating the amount of time that you're going to be able to spend on that, you might not do accurately. You might completely misestimate the amount of resource that you require for those parts of the project. And that's these sorts of new technologies increase that level of complexity, and that's where these sorts of issues arise.
Interesting. So look, you have kind of ruined everyone's day, right? By their wonderful business case is not going to survive, and et cetera, et cetera. But look, I'm sure you're now going to ride to the rescue and tell us, particularly for those viewers and listeners who are transforming their networks or intending to transform their networks, they can see now perhaps some more of these challenges, etc. Presumably this is an area where TNC can help, right? We're not just going to abandon all these customers to a watery grave. What can TNC do to help?
So I think what we found through our experience of sitting beside a lot of clients as they've rolled out and these transformative networks and new technologies is being able to have a one pane of glass view for all the data. As we've already discussed, data can be a major source of issues in projects, is really, really helpful. So what we've done to try and assist with that and make it clearer for ourselves as well as for the clients is a portal called Clarity. And on that, we can look at how each of the sites are transforming, track all the actions, and then make sure that we have experienced members of the team interpreting that for the clients and ensuring that it's populated properly. So that can be the real sort of hub of how you're managing the information for the network transformation. And then that can be continued. That not only can that be used for managing all the data, as I say, and the actions and the deployment, but also these things we've talked about in terms of testing, but also cost optimization and making sure things like legacy services are ceased on time, dual running is minimized, the bill is nice and clean going forward, and helping to manage that are all parts of what we found really can help clients and make it a simpler process for all and try and keep things on course.
Yeah, it's interesting that name Clarity and the whole point of the platform being to get that data visualized, shared, etc. I know, again, having had the chance to read the white paper and talk it through with you, things like getting legacy services ceased more quickly, making sure legacy services don't accidentally get left when the project closes, making sure that the costs for the new services going in are correct and accurate, you're only being billed for the right amounts. So all those things are absolutely key to keeping that business case on track, right? Otherwise, when the dreaded call comes from the CFO at the end of the deployment, how you can possibly evidence from a ragtag of Excel and email, what's actually been achieved is the thick end of impossible, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said there about a ragtag bundle of emails and Excel spreadsheets, I think that would be a very familiar situation to a lot of people listening or watching. That used to be the way that things were done, and you just can't, if you're transforming the network, in order to make the best use of cutting edge technologies, this sort of legacy way of trying to muddle your way through the network transformation itself just isn't going to work. Whereas continually tracking where the project is up to, where the business case is up to, as you say, in terms of new services and old services coming off, where the billing and commercial case is up to, whether the charging is correct, means that you're on top of that all the way through, rather than just trying to piece it all together at the end of the deployment and then ending up with a horrible, nasty shock if it's not where you want it to be. As you say, if you can even see a clear picture at that stage, because you might have completely lost sight of it by the time that has come along. And then at the end of the deployment, you also can't say, okay, well, tick, that's done, because obviously there'll be constant moves, adds, changes in the network ongoing. So being able to use the same service to monitor things throughout the lifetime of the contract is also something a lot of our clients find really valuable.
Yes, I remember a project you and I worked on a couple of years ago with a large retailer, and helping them prove the benefits of a new network, a transformed network. 3 years into the 5-year contract, something like 40% of the sites that were in existence when the RFP was issued were no longer there, and new sites had come in, and tracking that through over the contract lifecycle was both hugely valuable but tremendously complicated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if I think of some client projects we have at the moment, you have things like, because of all the flux in the markets over the past 2 years, greater numbers of mergers, for example, that will obviously throw your whole project into flux. As I've touched on before, maybe quite drastic changes in real estate, how many offices, the size of the offices that you have there, the hardware that you have within the offices, changes in terms of, as we said, people's approach to home working, retailers, and whether there has been a big push towards online, or whether people are now far more likely to visit your shop. You can't say that there is one set of changes that will affect a type of organization. Everything is in flux all over the place. So the amount of change there is likely to be in a project is exponentially higher than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something interesting. I'm conscious we're starting to get towards the end, so I've probably got a time for 2 more questions. But the first one being, you mentioned having experts to interpret the data. I just wanted to circle back on that, because that's a really key point. That the other thing which we offer is, yes, the platform that tries to evidence all of this and capture all the data and give that single pane of glass, but the expert people to plug the skills gaps we talked about. They know SD-WAN, they know SSE, they know ZTNA, etc. And just the straightforward resource gaps of, so many customers now, they're up to their eyeballs and beyond. They haven't got people to do these things.
No. Indeed, a lot of our clients have got a full roster of digital projects which they are trying to enact at the moment as a result of all the changes that we've already been talking about in the session. So the resources will be pulled in all sorts of different directions within an IT team and infrastructure team at the moment. As we've talked about, there is likely to be a skills gap as well, just the simple fact that these technologies are newer to the marketplace. And then obviously there are resource issues, recruiting issues and retention issues generally within the marketplace at the moment. So all of those leave gaps and leave challenges for the managers of those teams. And if we're able to help that in any way, because we do have that knowledge and expertise, we do have those resources to be dedicated to assisting with these things and have done it before, then that's great for us to be able to work with clients in that way.
Fantastic. Right. I promise one last question. It's a very simple one. I think I know the answer anyway. What should our viewers and listeners do now? It's call us, right?
Yes, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I think,
or a more appropriate digital channel.
indeed, however they should wish to engage in their preferred customer experience. I think, obviously, if you're thinking about digital strategy, transforming your network, think about it very carefully. We do have the expertise in order to be able to advise you on this, and we're always happy to do so. So, getting in contact with TNC is something I thoroughly recommend.
Excellent. Right. I'm very conscious we aren't just running out of time. We have now run out of time. So I'm going to draw it to a close. Thank you, Claire, for providing us with your extremely interesting insights and nautical analogies, of course.
Yeah, I feel like she's been wearing a sailor hat or something.
Yeah, definitely. Next time.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you everyone for listening and for watching. Please do let us know any questions you may have about this or any other network and telecoms topic. You can get in touch through our website, www.networkcollective.co.uk, or any of the usual social channels. And we look forward to talking with you all again soon.